Formula One is one of the most expensive and technically complex disciplines in sport. 10 teams compete not only on the track, but also in technical calculations. Thousands of hours of race analysis, data from the cars, stacks of design drawings for new technologies, and ultimately in marketing and the popularity of their own brand. However, the unmistakable calling card of every team is its drivers, who literally represent a particular manufacturer to the entire world. And no one will ever know how perfect a car truly is if the driver is not able to pilot it phenomenally. So it is precisely for this skill, controlling a 1.5-ton car at speeds of 300 kilometers per hour and withstanding G-forces comparable to those experienced during spaceflight, that Formula One drivers earn very serious money. Today, based on a recent Forbes study, I will tell you how much Formula One drivers earned in the past 2025 season. And I will also explain which drivers are considered the richest overall. I promise this will definitely surprise you, because these are names you have probably never even heard. You're watching the Where Your Money channel. Get comfortable, don't forget to like the video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Top 10. Opening our ranking of the 10 highest paid Formula One drivers of last year is Mercedes driver Andrea Kimi Antonelli, with an estimated income of $12.5 million. The Italian driver Andrea Antonelli is not only the youngest active driver in Formula One, but also one of the most promising drivers on the grid. At just 19 years old, he is already showing very strong results. Andrea made his debut precisely in the 2025 season, and fans initially watched him with great suspicion and distrust because he had to take the seat of the legendary Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. However, the young driver handled the challenge remarkably well, climbing onto the podium 3 times over the past Grand Prix season. Top 9. Moving on, next on the list is the legendary former Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz, with an estimated income of $13 million over the past year. In the 2025 season, Carlos raced for a new team, Williams, and managed to secure 9th place in the overall drivers' standings. Carlos himself notes that the move to a lower-tier team was noticeable for him, but he believes that the experience gained at Ferrari will allow not only Williams to grow professionally as a team, but also enable Carlos himself to reset and return to Formula One with new victories. At the same time, it appears that the Williams organization truly welcomed Carlos, appointing him as director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, their drivers' union. Next up is a driver whose income has long surpassed $1 million per month over the past year, Lance Stroll. The Canadian racer Lance Stroll is not only an ambitious and promising driver. At 27 years old, he competes for one of the world's top teams, Aston Martin. At the same time, he is also the son of the team's owner, billionaire Lawrence Stroll. Of course, this does not mean that Lance is a bad driver, but the past season was frankly unsuccessful for him. Hopefully, in the next one, he will be able to show much better results. Top 7. We immediately jump to $26 million earned over the past year, and in front of us is the undisputed #1 driver of the Silver Arrows team. Yes, this is British racing driver George Russell. After Hamilton's move to Ferrari, the focus of fans' attention naturally shifted to George, as he has been showing very strong results. Last season, Russell won 2 Grands Prix, which allowed him to finish 4th in the ranking of the most successful Formula One drivers of the past year. Moving on, next on the list is an undisputed legend of motorsport. The man who once broke the dominance of Michael Schumacher himself, Fernando Alonso, with an estimated income of $26.5 million. The Formula One legend has shown weaker results over the past 2 years. However, there have been no announcements about Fernando ending his career. Therefore, we can expect that there will be no changes at Aston Martin for the 2026 season, and that we will see Fernando Alonso on the track for at least 1 more year. And opening our top 5 highest-paid Formula One drivers is a true heartthrob, Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's estimated income for the past year amounted to $30 million, which makes him, overall, one of the wealthiest young racing drivers in the world. While the past year was not the best for Ferrari as a team, Charles Leclerc himself signed contracts with the brands Chivas Regal and 8 Sleep. He also launched a clothing line called CL16 and a creative studio named SideQuest to produce branded content. In addition, we cannot fail to mention his engagement to model Alexandra St. Mal. We continue our ranking, and next up is also one of the youngest active Formula One drivers, Oscar Piastri, with an estimated income of $37.5 million. The Australian racer finished the past season behind only his teammate Lando Norris and Max Verstappen from Red Bull Racing, securing third place in the overall Formula One drivers' standings in 2025. In fact, in just a little over a month, we will once again be able to watch the rivalry between these three drivers continue. Opening the top three leaders is the recently mentioned teammate of Oscar, Lando Norris, with an estimated income of $57.5 million over the past year. At the beginning of last season, Norris became the sole holder of a rather dubious distinction, the highest number of podium finishes among Formula One drivers without a race win, recording his 15th podium finish in China in April of that year. Later came 4 breakthrough victories when Norris unexpectedly challenged Max Verstappen from Red Bull. And this year, the 26-year-old Brit proved that this was no coincidence, securing 7 Grand Prix victories and 18 podium finishes across 24 races. I think right now you're wondering who comes next, Lewis or Max. The second highest paid Formula One driver became Lewis Hamilton, earning an estimated $70 million. After announcing in 2024 the end of his 12-season run with Mercedes and his move to Ferrari, Hamilton said he was fulfilling a childhood dream. However, already in November, the 40-year-old Brit described his first season in red overalls as a nightmare. In the overall standings, Hamilton finished 6th and failed to reach the podium even once throughout the season, for the first time in 19 years in Formula One. And so, the top 1 highest-paid Formula One driver was, as expected, Max Verstappen, with a record income of $76 million. Verstappen finished the season with the best performance, 8 victories, including the season finale in Abu Dhabi. In the end, he lost by just 2 points to Lando Norris, narrowly missing out on a 5th championship title, which would have tied him with Juan Manuel Fangio in the number of world titles. Overall, Formula One significantly increased its revenues last season. Record-breaking income was driven by a rapid growth in audience numbers, in particular thanks to the Formula One movie by Apple. In addition, this growth was fueled by a complete restructuring of Formula One's business strategy aimed at attracting new, younger, and more energetic viewers. The average team valuation rose by more than 50%, reaching $3.6 billion, up from $1.9 billion in 2023. At the same time, the cost cap introduced in 2021 limits team spending in many areas related to car development and design to approximately $170 million this season. However, these restrictions do not apply to drivers' salaries, which is why teams seeking any competitive advantage can demonstrate their financial strength precisely here. And now, let's briefly move on to the richest Formula One drivers overall. Opening the top 5 richest Formula One drivers of all time is Jenson Button, with an estimated net worth of $200 million. The 2009 world champion and one of the best drivers of his generation, who unfortunately was not always lucky with his team choices. It was right after his move to McLaren that the team entered a difficult period. However, Button earned solid fees, and after retiring from racing, he became a Sky Sports commentator. That seems like a very good place for drivers in retirement. Continuing the ranking, next is Kimi Räikkönen, with an estimated net worth of $220 million. Kimi Matthias Räikkönen, the 2007 world champion and one of the most beloved Formula One drivers, ended his career in 2021. Over 17 years in Formula One, the Iceman earned a comfortable $220 million through salaries and endorsement deals and can finally relax. "I can sit at home for a week without going outside and feel perfectly fine," says Kimi. The next driver among the richest is the well-known Fernando Alonso, with a staggering net worth of $250 million, although I believe he actually has much more. However, I am not an authoritative media outlet, so let's assume it is indeed 250. Next up is another wealthy Formula One driver, Lewis Hamilton, with a net worth of $300 million. A 7-time world champion and the most successful driver in Formula One history, Lewis has 103 victories, 182 podiums, 103 pole positions, and 59 fastest laps to his name. It is unlikely that anyone will ever surpass these achievements, although Verstappen is still only 28 years old. And the undisputed leader of this ranking is a world-famous racing driver whose name has long gone far beyond the boundaries of motorsport, Michael Schumacher. While Lewis Hamilton has already surpassed many of Schumacher's records, though not the number of titles, Schumacher remains a true legend. Michael Schumacher is not only the wealthiest racing driver, but also one of the richest athletes in history. Unfortunately, after the tragic accident in December 2013, Schumi has not appeared in public. What condition the former driver is in today, and how much of his fortune has already been spent on medical treatment, remains unknown. Of course, there is no longer any question of a return to professional racing, but we still hope that one day we might see Schumacher at least somewhere near a racing circuit. And with that, this is the end. I hope you found the video interesting. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and continue watching my videos. Take care.